Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Joanna Pineda. I'm CEO and Chief Troublemaker here at Matrix Group. I'm joined by Dave Hoernig. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave Hoernig here.
I'm also joined by Jaime Quiroz
Hello, how's it going?
and Chai Sadiwang.
Hi, how are
You
you?
can see their titles up on the screen. So this is the team that does a lot of the big thinking here at Matrix Group about Sitefinity. They do a lot of work on it, and we are super excited to be talking about Sitefinity 12 and some of the new features available in that version. Go ahead, go to the next screen. And I'm hoping Maria is going to be checking the audio for us. So welcome to everyone. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping rules. So we're going to be sending out a copy of the slides and the recording within the next couple days. We're going to put the recording on YouTube so that you can view it later on, share it with other folks in your organization. We are muting everyone. I guess, Brian, everyone's already muted. So if you're experiencing any kind of problems, call the office and ask for Renee, and she'll try and sort you out. We've got some folks kind of standing by. If you've got questions, go to the chat in Zoom. I've got Brian Clark. Say hello, Brian.
Hey.
I don't know if they can see our video, but anyway, so he's monitoring the chat in Zoom, and so we'll be taking questions during the webinar. And if you've got questions after today's webinar, certainly post them on social or be in touch, because most of you on this webinar are organizations that we know are using Sitefinity, and we'd be delighted to talk to you about the new version. So give us some love on social. Let's go ahead and get started. So most of you are familiar with Matrix Group, but there's a few organizations on the webinar that are new to Matrix Group. So we're a digital agency based here in Crystal City. We work almost exclusively with associations and nonprofits, and they hire us to solve these four problems: increase membership or STEM membership decline, retain members through compelling web and mobile offerings, and this really speaks to engagement. Many of our clients are saying to us, how can we use digital, how can we use these different platforms to really increase engagement, which will then directly translate to higher retention rate of members. We've got a lot of clients right now that are rebranding, and they're really looking to reach new audiences with a clear brand, or they're trying to reach their existing audiences with maybe a slightly different message, a different value proposition. And then finally, clients often come to us because they've got a back office that needs optimizing. Maybe they've got systems that are using multiple passwords. Maybe they've got systems that don't talk to each other, but these are the reasons why we get hired. Next slide, Dave. I will not go through all of these services. This is your 2-minute advertisement before the webinar, but these are our services. It always starts with a strategy. It always starts with who your audiences are, what do you want them to do, what are they looking for from you, and then whether it's a website, a mobile app, a progressive web app, a social strategy, a content management strategy, a new CMS, a custom database, integration, or even a new membership database. We hope that you'll be in touch with us if you need any of those things. And hopefully you'll be in touch with us too if you just feel like, I would love some kind of a consultation about where my strategy is going, and I want to see how I'm doing, and I want to make my whole digital strategy more high performing. So these are just some of the organizations that we serve. We picked these logos because they represent trade associations, they represent professional societies, and they represent nonprofits. Whether it's the Carnegie Endowment, that's been a client for a very long time, the Food Marketing Institute, trade association client that's been a client for a long time, or an organization like the International Society for Stem Cell Research, that's a newer client. These organizations we're delighted to be partnering with them to really help them create a high-performing digital strategy and really kind of, help them with their membership. All right, so let's talk about 12, and I will intro this, but this is really the Dave, Jaime, and Chai show. These are folks who work day in and day out with Sitefinity, and we're excited to be sharing what's new with you. And Brian, I have no idea if video's on. No video? All right, so we're in the fancy room with video, but that's not working today, so apologies, folks. I even wore my purple for you. So here's just highlights of what's happening in 12. 12 was released sometime this spring. For those of you who don't know, it's Progress, right? It was a Telerik, and now it's Progress, the company that makes Sitefinity. Every quarter they issue a small release, and then once a year there's a major release. 12 is the latest major release, and we're going to be talking about the enhanced interface, which changed pretty dramatically with 12. There's some really exciting new features that we're going to be showing you related to the form builder, related to the interface, etc. As always, any content management system these days, when it's issuing new releases, there's got to be some kind of a security component to that release, which is one of the reasons why we say to our clients it's so important to keep your CMS updated. And then finally, we want to show you both in the standard and professional editions, as well as the marketing edition, some really new and exciting things that are now available for personalization. So we have a lot of clients on Sitefinity. So you'll see here, some organizations have been on since version 4. Some clients are newer to Sitefinity. If you go to the next slide, these are some, but not all of our clients on Sitefinity. So we've got a huge number of clients on this content management system. We like Sitefinity. Like I said, we've been working on Sitefinity since version 4, and now we're talking about 12. We love the power that it really gives us as web developers, but we love the power that it also gives you, the client, to really kind of create new pages, create exciting, digital experiences for your members. And we feel like, with every release, the functionality just keeps growing and really makes it a great CMS. It's not the only CMS that we implement. Some of you know that we also implement a lot of sites in WordPress. We'll be doing a webinar in WordPress in the next few months. We also work with other content management systems. All right, so Dave, this is the Dave Show. We're going to be talking about Sitefinity 12.1.
Good morning. So we're going to be talking about 12.1, and we're going to demonstrate it via a fictitious company and a website called Quantum. So all the screens that we're going to be looking at on the back end are this fictitious company, Quantum, and they focus on marketing and whatnot. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the enhancements to the user interface for editors. Really, Sitefinity has focused on the editor experience from the beginning, and it's one of the things that at Matrix Group we've really touted as being a real strength of Sitefinity as a CMS. We work with others, like Joanna said, but the editor experience is already strong, and they've made it even stronger with this release. We'll look at a few things in the back end. First, they've adopted the new interface for page management. So for those of you who've used Sitefinity 11, you've already seen edits to the interface for content, managing content if you're doing news and events. Those same user interface improvements have been added to the page editor as well. So the page UI follows that. They've also put search front and center, and this is something that if
search within the back end to find content you've already entered.
Exactly, search within the back end, so that when you're searching for pages, you just have to click a button, and now it's the search is just available. And they've given you a little widget that lets you show and hide the whole widget sidebar when you're entering content in pages, and I'll show you all of those things. They've also improved the MVC content block widget, and if you've been in any conversations with Matrix, we've been talking about MVC for some time now. It is part of a longer-term strategy to move entirely to MVC. That's an underlying strategy of the way that pages
Dave, let's
develop.
step back. So tell us what MVC is.
So MVC is actually Model View Controller, and it is a technique for .NET applications.
So it's not unique to Sitefinity.
It's not unique to Sitefinity. It's really a function of the underlying platform. And it's really an improvement over what was called the forms modules that really make every web page a large input form. And the way MVC works is it lets the smaller parts of a page, run discreetly. It's easier for developers, and it's faster, and it's more secure.
And Jaime, you love the new MVC block widgets, content block widgets.
Yeah, so they favor a lot more web standards and just best practices in general. So it's a huge win for the developers.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we'll look at a couple of enhancements to the interface for the MVC content block widget that's available on Pages. And also, this concept is a Telerik or a progress concept called distraction-free. That's what they're moving towards. And distraction-free means things might have been moved, but not removed. So you're not losing functionality, but you might have to find some functionality that you're used to seeing in a different place. It's moved out of the way of letting you manage content, and I'll show you some examples there as well. So let's go look.
So we're going to go to the editor now, right?
We're going to jump into the editor. So I'm going to be flipping between the editor and the presentation and the front end when we need to go there as well. So here we are in the Sitefinity backend of our fictitious company. I'm going to just start us on the dashboard. The dashboard probably looks pretty familiar to those of you who've been in the Sitefinity backend. So I'm going to go right to Pages. This is where we want to see those changes to the UI. And as soon as the pages load, right off the bat, you can see it looks a little different than what you're used to. There are still an Actions button. The Actions button is now over here, this little dot, dot, dot. So if I click that, I still have access to all the different features that I used to, that everyone is used to when they're editing pages. And notice the search. The search is now right up here on the top. So if I was searching for pages, I can type my term in here. I don't have to click the button and go to search. And that's a small example of what they mean by distraction-free. I don't have to click a button. There's not a bank of buttons here that you're used to, where I have to click search and then execute it. There's two other things. What you're normally used to, and I'm not going to be switching back and forth between 12 and an earlier version. So I'm trusting your memory of the earlier versions on this. But what you are used to seeing is a right sidebar on the pages here with filter options and with other settings. Those things are still available, but now there are these two little icons here, right? So if I want to look at settings, I open it up, and now I can look at permissions for pages or, some of the settings that you're used to. Or if I want to filter the pages, I can open up the filter. All the options are still there. They're just hidden at first because they're trying to keep.
Because for the most part, folks don't use those, right? Especially when you're creating pages. So when you need that specialized function, it's available to you. But probably, I bet their analytics are showing them that this is less used.
Exactly.
And so keep it hidden.
Keep it hidden until you need it, and let the focus be on your content. Now, I show you there's one other thing here, and that is this reorder button. I know that we've talked to many clients who have called and said, I've lost my page, or I've lost a group of pages. And what we come to find out is they have inadvertently dragged the mouse and reordered their pages when they were just really trying to open or close the page tree. So one of the things Sitefinity has done is they've moved that function just to a separate page. So if I click reorder, it brings me to this view where now I can move these things with the drag, functionality here. But it's not clogging up the works when I'm just viewing my pages, and so it helps me with that. Hopefully a couple of people on the phone are having a chuckle over that one because you know who you are if you've had that problem. They've also taken the create page function and simplified it. So if I click here to create a page, they've removed some of the fields that really people aren't making decisions when they're first creating content. Again, simplify the process and make it distraction-free. So you've got really just a simple path of putting in the title and letting the URL fill in, and then where it lives in the page tree, if it's going to go at the top level or under parent pages, whether to show it in navigation, if it's a redirect or a group page. All these features already exist, but what you're not seeing here are all the advanced features that people usually just pass by when they're creating pages.
Boy, it's so simple you can almost do it on your phone.
You could almost do it on your phone.
I'm not sure that I'd be authoring pages on my phone, but it looks so simple at this stage.
It is, and if you think anything was lost there, it's not. If I go over to the right here, I've still got the actions and title and properties, and from here, I have those features, and I still have all the other features that I'm used to seeing. right? They're still all available, and that's what I mean when I say the distraction-free is not removed. It is just moved.
Now, go back right there.
Yep.
The one thing that was in the, go back to the settings,
Yeah.
was the search engine optimization. That you now have to go specifically to title and properties to view.
Exactly.
Because it's going to pre-populate the title, right?
That's right. It'll pre-populate the title.
Based on the title that you have.
Yeah.
But, Jamie, people have to go in here to put in a more descriptive title as well as a longer description.
Yep.
Right? And that's something that we encourage you to do. For me, it's a little bit of a bummer that it's now kind of in settings, because I think that that's something that clients should do, but know that that's in there. And that's something that we recommend that you populate.
Yeah.
Actually, the SEO stuff was previously under the titles and properties.
It was already there?
It was already there.
Okay, so it was already like a click away.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well then, keep clicking.
Keep clicking. So some of the changes there. So now let's go in and we're going to edit one of the pages here. I'm going to go into the About Us page, and let's see how the editor for pages has changed. This is so far, we've just looked at the front end as we're getting into pages, but now we want to edit content within a page. And the first thing you'll notice is on the right-hand side, all of the widgets are now MVC. Notice the little blue MVC that's on each icon. It doesn't mean that your old widgets, the widgets you have in Site when you upgrade to 12 won't work. They will. It will support that, but you know,
The default widgets.
the default will be MVC, and we will, if you're not already thinking about it, be talking to everybody, all of our clients to think about how can we migrate to MVC to take advantage of this in the future.
So Jamie, in your mind, what's a chief advantage of having an MVC widget for blogs, for example, versus the regular widget?
Well, it's really a developer thing, so it just makes working with the code and the content a lot easier. And it's kind of the way of the future, so wherever possible, it is the preferred method of adding content to a page.
Have clients lost functionality with an MVC widget?
No, it's all backwards compatible as long as you're in a hybrid setup. But, you know, as stated, it is the way of the future to use MVC.
Because Microsoft is really pushing MVC, right, Jai?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a follow-up to that, Dave, if you've got just to have a second. Next, curious, do you have to create the page first with the simplified piece and then go back to the properties to do the other actions?
You do, actually. That's exactly right. So if those other actions are important to the pages, it becomes a two-step process. The hope is that most things, it's removing the other actions for you know, most of the content edit.
So it's multiple steps even if you create a new page?
Yes, if you create a brand new page and you need to go to the fields that are only on titles and properties, you'd go after creating the page to that step.
Gotcha.
So now when I'm looking here, I'm going to show you this one. It's just a little tidbit actually, but I like it. It's this little set of square boxes up in the top corner, and all it does is it's a toggle for the widget bar. So I can turn off the widget bar, hide it, and now I can really focus on my content. I've many times been editing a page and found that the content, when the widget bar is there on my small screen, it requires me to scroll left and right here, and that can be a pain. So just a handy little feature there, you know, hiding and then showing the widget bar. Let's look at the content block. I'm going to drag a new content block here onto the page. This is a common thing most people use, and put the content in. Then notice when I go into create content, I've got the new UI. If anyone has used Sitefinity version 11, they're seeing this UI already when you're editing news or events or any of your content other than pages. And now the same UI is applying to pages. And I'm going to go into an existing content block just so I can use some of the content that's already there here to show you another couple of handy features. One is the link builder. Now, if I wanted to link to something, I'm going to highlight some text here. I'm going to click the link builder. And I can link to a page or URL. None of that has changed, but they have a new feature that lets me select the page or content. So if I go here, I can add a link to a page. You're used to this. But I could also check this little edit button here, and I can select, I want to link to a news item instead of a page. So what people are used to is frankly capturing that news item in the URL and then pasting it in to the link builder. Now you can navigate through, and of course you can narrow it with.
And this is if you want to create a static link to related content.
Exactly. It's building links to content that's somewhere on the site, and you still have the same feature, of course, to link to any external URL that you would like. So it's one of the features that I think is a nice improvement. And another one is for those of you who work with the HTML code. This little view HTML, the interface is different, so it's not the HTML link that you're used to seeing at the bottom. What it does is it gives you a full screen now code view of the content in your widget, and it's color coded. Notice the green for the HTML control types, and the black for the text, and then the properties with the red and the blue things in quotes. For anyone who's done any development, it's a real improvement on the latter. And if you open up one, you even have some IntelliSense to give you the pick list of all the HTML controls that you can put in here. So it is getting closer to a true development environment than previous versions.
Jaime, do we have a lot of clients that go into code view?
Yes. So we do have a fair amount of content block usage, and where we will actually just include a pre-formatted or structured piece of content that can become a shared content block, and we ask clients, if you want to achieve this display, just use this content block and just tweak the HTML. So this will make it a lot easier just visually messing around with those types of content blocks. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool. So those are some of the user interface improvements that we wanted to look at. And I'll take questions at the end. In fact, the team will take questions at the end as well. There's also some features that are separate really from the user interface, functional features that are new and improved. And one of them is the form builder, is really enhanced in version 12. In a couple of different ways. Three key ways that I think almost anyone can use. One is you can create multi-page forms now. So if you have a long form, we're going to show this, that needs to go to 2 pages or 3 pages, you can create multi-page forms. The other is you can use conditionals for logic to show and hide fields based on users' choices on previous fields. And I'll show you an example of this as well. In the third, and we love this one, there is a new email field that lets, frankly, a lot of forms will collect the email address of the user filling out the form. The field, when you place it on the form, lets you also customize a message directly to the user who fills out the form to that email address in response to their submission.
And Chai, that was something that you had to program custom in the past, right?
Yep, in the past we have to program manually to get this piece of functionality for some of the clients.
Yeah.
Right, because Form Builder would send an email to a designated person at the staff level to say something new has been submitted. But if a client said, hey, I want the person filling out the survey to get an email, Chai, you had to code it.
Yes.
But now you can do it yourself.
Yes.
Using Form Builder. It's pretty exciting.
Yes, yes, that's neat tools.
The other functions, other features here is the embedded media feature that lets you embed media from Twitter or YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, any of these.
And why is this new?
Party. Well, it used to be that you'd have to copy the embed code and then go and figure out, put it in your screen, and it didn't provide a WYSIWYG for you. And now they've introduced an interface that lets you do all that, and I'll demonstrate that as well for embedding third-party video, audio. And they've also introduced a preview for mobile, so you can see how your page will look on any device. We get that question a lot. How do we preview this page for mobile before we publish it? And let's take a look at some of these features now.
And Jamie, you're involved in creating forms for clients all the time. What do you think of these changes to Form Builder?
I think more than anything, clients will appreciate just the cleaner UI. The older ones could be a little clunky, hard to work with. This just provides a better user interface overall, I feel.
And the conditional logic is really great, right, Chai?
Yeah, it's almost like when you create it, you can read it as you're reading a sentence that's what will happening, and if that, what else?
I see.
Yeah.
So it's give you that sense.
Okay,
Yeah, it gives
then
you-
this, right.
Yes.
Right, so while we're still editing our About Us page, I'm going to use this one to illustrate a couple of the points. So I brought in this content block earlier, and now I'm going to go into it, and let's see how easy it is. Can I really embed, Vimeo? Well, I've got Vimeo right here, and I can capture the embed code with a share, embed code, and copy. So now I've copied it into my clipboard. And I'll just go back over here, and I'm going to use this embed widget. I'm going to paste it in
And that's
there.
totally new. The embed widget, yep.
And
Oh, and now
Right
you
off
can
the
put
bat.
in the width and height.
I can control the width and height here, and I get the WYSIWYG, and when I insert it, it's in my content block, and when I save that content block, it's probably not the prettiest position, but nevertheless, there it is at the top of our About Us page. So it's a nice feature. You can get that embed code from YouTube or from any of the services that provide that feature. Now I'm going to remove this content block to just restore the page to show you another feature that I love, and that is the preview for mobile. So this little ... gives you more options on the pages. And under it, this is one place where I might get to the title and properties and so on. There used to be an actions link at the top of pages that you would click on, and this ... is replacing it. But one of the items here is preview for mobile. This opens up a new window, and here is my page in an iPhone, what am I looking at? 5 SE. And I can crawl through the entire page, and I can change what device it is here on this drop-down. So if I wanted to see what it looks like on an iPad Pro, in landscape mode, there's that page.
And Jamie, this is going to be honoring the styles that we create.
Yep, exactly. The theme will be applied here.
Yeah. So I think this is another nice feature. I know a lot of clients of ours historically would use their browser features built into the browsers, but then they need to have Chrome or they need to have this plugin.
Or a real device.
Or a real device. And to get to that, they would really already have to have published the page.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of this is I haven't published the page yet, and I'm able to do
You can
this.
save in draft mode. And
You can save it in draft and preview.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then preview it and see how it look like, and you can modify, tweak it before you finalize it, and send to publish.
Yeah. It's a great feature.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the couple of additional features with the editor. I want to go to the forms now and show you these forms improvements. Yes.
Before moving on, a quick question. Does the new embed feature make video responsive? Currently, we add style code to our embedded videos to make sure it's responsive. Does having the capability of adjusting the size of the video, does that already play into the responsiveness as far as adding that?
That feature, that's a great question. It's usually the container where the video is placed in that would control responsive behavior to the video itself.
Okay.
So what does that
Do you
mean?
have,
Yeah, so that's still something that gets incorporated into the theme. So it's not inherently responsive, but it can easily be made responsive.
So Jamie, how do we make it inherently responsive? Is that so? Do we have to know that those pages might have video?
No, it's just something that we add globally that'll automatically make any video embedded in your site responsive. So
that's something we do automatically anyway.
yeah.
Okay. So, and if somehow that's not working on your site, let us know and we can add that feature. Maybe we didn't used to do it, or maybe it needs tweaking.
Absolutely. So I want to look at the forms. We talked a lot about the enhancements to the forms. So I'm going to go into content forms where I have already a job application form that we can look at as an example. So here's the job application form, and there's three things we want to look at really. Multi-page forms,
And conditional logic.
conditional logic, and that email field. So let's look at the,
And Chai, you love these new features.
Yes.
yeah. So the first thing, this is already a multi-page form, but I will show you there's a new widget for forms called page break. And as soon as I drag a page break onto the form, I'm going to pull it down here, and let's say I wanted to put a page break after the street address. I just drag that widget in between street address and the things that follow it, and now I've got a page break which gives me the next step button. It divides this into page 3 and 2 and page 3, and if I edit that page break feature, I can customize what the next step button is, and I can check a box that will allow the user to move back or not. So it's a little bit of Boolean logic there. So it is really that easy. And if you don't have any page breaks on your form, then you don't have this very top part, common header, and at the very bottom, there's a common footer. And this is another, I think, convenience that Sitefinity introduced without with a little bit of forethought, meaning if you wanted to drag content at the top or at the bottom of your form that appears on every page of a multi-page form, you only have to do it once.
And actually, that makes sense, because you'll have a header that says, this is the job application form for X, right? Otherwise, you go to step 2, and you got to, and you lose it, right?
So like your header and footer of the form.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And if you don't have that page break dragged into your form, you'll just have the header and the footer in the form, and everything is on one. And notice also they give you these kind of white blocks on top of the gray to indicate the different sections of the form. Well, I don't think that's a good place for this, so I'm going to pull this one out. And again, the rest of the page, the subsequent page just collapses back into it. And if we wanted to look at the front end, what does this form look like? Do this. I've got it here under the Apply Now. And here it is, 3 easy steps. Here's our job application form. And the first step is I'm going to select the position I want to apply for. And I've got a drop down there. And I've got the next step button that's going to take me to the next step. And each one also it takes advantage of the required fields. So if I can't move to the next step before selecting a choice here, then it'll stop and it'll give me an error message. And the Forms module already does this now. So that's not really a new feature, except that it still applies to the multi-page form. Now, I'm going to go back here because I want to introduce the next thing, which is the rules for the forms. So if I wanted to have a rule, and I've actually placed one, I do them in this actions menu here. And I'm going to say more actions, rules. This is brand new in Sitefinity. This is where I would put the rules in for how the form should behave, showing and hiding stuff. So let's see what we've got in here. I've actually got a rule already. Before we look at the one I already have, I'm going to show you if I create a rule, it's simply here. It's a very almost natural English language interface that says if any of the following conditions are met, and now I can create conditions, right? So I could say select, here is my list of fields. And I would say if first name, for example,
Is Bob.
Right, is Bob, is Bob, then do something, right? Then what do I want to do? Do I want to show a field? Do I want to hide a field, skip a step, go to a different page after submitting?
So it could be
or show a
questions
message?
like, if you need sponsorship, tell us what type of visa, right?
Exactly.
Things like that. Or,
Yeah.
like you said, if you're applying for X position, then you've got, like, if it's a marketing position, then you need a writing sample.
Yes, you have more field, or some field have been gone because of your position. It does not require it to have that information.
Can you do
right.
things like if you answered this and then skip these questions?
Yeah,
You can do that.
Exactly.
Skip.
And in fact, that's the most common feature. So what I've got here is a rule. So let's look at this one. I've already created one for our form. And what it is if the field select the position you want, and that's the one we were just looking at, isn't marketing writer, then hide the field, describe your experience with marketing. Okay? And if we look back at the form, I'm going to close the rules, and it's going to bring me back to my form. Notice that where we're asking this drop-down, select the position you want to apply for, and then describe your experience with marketing. Right? If I go back to the front end, I don't see anything about my experience with marketing, but if I make this selection to marketing, now that field pops up. If I change this back to anything else, including the no choice, then that field disappears. And that's the way that conditional logic works in a very common scenario. I want to show or hide other fields based on prior responses.
Does the logic have to apply to a field next to it, or can it be later on?
Could be later on, and it is really a function of what choices are available. Here in the
fields actually.
rules engine. So all the rules have these kinds of options: show a field, hide a field, skip to a step, go to a different page, a specific page after submitting, or show a message. So you might have, different departments responsible for different responses in the form. This would be a way of, after submitting, you can direct them to the proper departmental page within your organization, as another example. So we really like this feature. And I think it is the continuing evolution of their forms module, really just continuing to grow up and to be sophisticated.
Dave, what happens on the back end if you've got, say, if you select marketing, or Chai, because you're familiar with the database, if you select marketing and it says, okay, now give us your marketing experience, does that create a separate field in the database so that when you export it, only those submissions have that field populated? How does that work?
When you export the data from the field that you're filling out, it's going to be only the data that you entering from the form previously in the front end. So anything else.
So it's handling the database for you?
Yes. And that actually help you to export like to Excel file, or you want to do some further things. But that's, in that process.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the last thing is this email field that I was talking about that we love. And if you go over to the settings over here on the top right, I'm not going to look at the content of my form. I've come out of my rules engine, and I'm going to go to settings. And this is where, if you've dealt with the forms in Sitefinity, you're used to saying, I want to receive an email when someone submits it, or this group of people want to receive an email. And now I can send an email to the form respondent, this confirmation email. And so when I check this box, but it tells me, what does it tell me? Drop the email widget in the form. So I have to go back to content, and that's where let me find a good suitable place for the email, right above the name probably. I find this, where is it?
Yes, go.
I think go a little smaller, there we go. Email button. So I'll drag this one in, and really that's all I have to do. Sitefinity is going to take care of the fact that it's going to collect an email, it's going to make sure it's a proper email. I could change the label if I want with the edit, but that's already exists in forms. And now when I go back to settings, and I check that box, notice my error message is gone because now it sees there's an email field on the form. And what can I do? I can even customize the message that's going to this form. So I clicked Customize Message, and here, thank you for filling out our form. Your submission has been received. I can put whatever is very specific to this form, including the fields that they filled out on the form. and you put fields in with this sort of syntax with the squiggly brackets and, you know, the variables, and then it fills it in like the old mail merge function used to do. Including in the subject line. I can make the subject line customized, the body of the email customized, and then down below, I can say who it's
Dave, is there a
sent
WYSIWYG for adding these fields so that they're dynamic?
There is. If you go to insert
I
dynamic
see.
data on the
Okay,
right,
there you go.
and I select here, I want to add the phone, and I insert, and then it puts that
The field
value
name, the
in
placeholder.
body.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what you do is you basically, just like old-fashioned word merge codes, right?
yeah,
You put it in with the proper formatting, line breaks, et cetera, and then it's going to populate it. So that's a handy feature. If someone
Yeah.
fills out a survey, you can actually say, thank you for filling out our survey, but also show them what they actually filled out.
yeah.
Yes.
So if it's an application form for a scholarship,
Yep.
if it's an application form for an award,
Yes. And then sometimes you don't want to include everything, so that's why you have an option to select the field, only the fields that you want to
Right.
be in the body part of the email and respond back to
Yeah.
the submitter.
Right, because sometimes the content that you're going to solicit from your site visitors is proprietary or confidential, and you don't want that going back out in an email, even to
yes.
them, right? You want some level of security as well. So between those three features in the form builder, we are really excited to really help everyone to kind of be building forms with this.
Dave, there's a little message here that says forms are not configured to send emails. That's at the server level, and that's something
Yes.
that we do for them. Shai?
Yes, that's what it means, is that this specific server doesn't have the SMTP set up properly yet. So you're not going to be able to send email without that information. So
That's something that we would do when we set up the site for them on the
Yes,
server.
yes.
Okay, so hopefully they're not going to be seeing a yellow message.
That's right. That's exactly right. So
Boy, that's really powerful form building.
that is, yeah, it's, I'm certainly happy with that. And it brings us back to our slides. So we've really demonstrated kind of a lot of these features, the form builder, the embedded media, and that preview for mobile. Sitefinity is also concerned with security. They are really perpetually concerned with security, and I won't spend a lot of time here because there's not a lot of interface to show, but I will show you a couple things. One of them is they've introduced a web security settings in the back end, and this is something that, again, developers would normally have to manage themselves outside of Sitefinity. So for them to kind of introduce features, that means less development in the future and more configuration options to know about. In particular, they've given better control over the common website attacks like clickjacking and cross-site scripting. So I know, Joanna, you're going to say, Dave, what is that? What is clickjacking?
That's right. Thank you.
Clickjacking is when, you know, if your website is used in an iframe of another site. This is a very common use of it. And then they put like something over top of your website. It's iframed in there, so people think they're on
Basically,
your
your
site.
click got hijacked, and instead of going to the place you want them to go, they go someplace bad.
Goes someplace bad, exactly. And cross-site scripting is similarly common. And the idea there is that someone with malicious intent would inject a JavaScript that's now executing on your web pages. And they do that with content security policy. We'll take a quick look at that in trusted sources. They also let you control how your content is embedded in other sites. And they have a feature that actually manages actions when cross-site scripting attacks are detected. So they've got detection, settings, and responses. One other security improvement I'm going to touch on is just that they've introduced a search in the back end of the advanced settings. And that makes it easier to find. I'm going to show you, this is really something that tends to apply more to the administrators of sites. But you know, since 3 of them are sitting in this room, it's a great feature. So if I go to administration and settings, let's start there. And first, I'm going to show you these web security features. Just click on web security, and there are really 3 of this list that I will show you. One is the trusted sources. You can edit it right here. Probably some of these sources are familiar to many of you because you are already connecting to Google or Google Analytics. You may be connecting to Twitter or any of these things. So what this is it's really just saying if your web server, if your website is going to call out to some of these resources, we're going to allow it. But if you wanted it not to call out to some other resource, we would deny it. And that way, if someone did infuse a script onto your website and its job is to call out to its third party and start, getting data or shoveling data, if it's not on this list, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
So that's one of the features they've added. The next one is the control of embedding your content here. This is a similar thing. There's actually this feature called X-frame options that appears in the head section of every web request. And that tells the server whether or not it will allow itself to be embedded in an iframe of another site. Again, something that usually it takes a developer to do, and now you can, using a control, configure it here for your entire site. And then the third is prevention of cross-site scripting attack. This is another feature, and really it says if a cross-site scripting attack is detected, what to do, right? Do nothing, or sanitize the page, which means remove only the unsafe parts, or block the rendering of the whole page. So it even gives us a way to kind of manage how that's working. And I did say I wanted to show you the search on the advanced features. If you go to advanced settings, I don't know how many of you on the call have gone to advanced settings and really done much in here. But I got to tell you, there are a lot of settings that run a Sitefinity application. I'm just scrolling through this tree all the way through, and if I open up any of these arrows, they just go on and on with settings all the way as deep as you can imagine, and it can be difficult sometimes to find the right setting. So this search up here that they've
But
introduced,
clients are not messing with settings generally.
clients don't generally mess with settings, but sometimes they do, and some clients are frankly more tech savvy than
Okay.
others, and we'll go in there. So if I were looking for a setting and I knew it had to do with email, I can just type in email, and there I've got my list of all the the different settings where email is, and I can go to the one I'm finding and click on it here, disable the email headers on newsletters, and there I'm at the setting that I was looking for without a lot of figuring out where did that really live. So we love this feature. And I think that's about as much time as I'm going to spend on that one. Now, let me go back to the slides and let's talk about personalization. Really, there's three ways that you personalize your content on your website. The first that probably everyone is doing is your audience, and so your website is already to some degree reaching out to a specific audience, and that is the minimal amount that everybody's got to do, and you could do that with any technology. The next is you want to personalize by user role. This is a little more detail, and believe it or not, probably everyone on the call is already doing this. When your members log in, then they tend to be able to see member-only content, and in a way that's personalizing by their role already, but I'm going to show you a deeper strategy as well. And then the third is personalized by audience segment. Now, I will tell you up front, this is a feature that is on the marketing edition of Sitefinity. If you have the professional edition and the standard edition, you won't have these features, but we wanted to show it because
It's so exciting. We had to show it to you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's first talk about what can you do with the professional edition? What does it mean by role?
And standard and professional, you can do these things, right?
Exactly.
Both of them.
Standard as well.
Because we have clients on this call that are on all three, but I think the majority are on professional.
Yes.
Right, and so the note, this is also available in standard edition. So one thing you can do is you can personalize content based on role, and if you didn't understand how roles work, not logged in visitors have the anonymous role. So to Sitefinity, even if I'm not logged in, it thinks of me as being in a role. I'm anonymous, that's my role. And roles are typically assigned by a single sign-on. So if you've got a single sign-on, that's generally how the
Or
roles
any type of
get in.
login.
Or any type of login, exactly. And it is good for custom calls to action, right? If I've got a call to action for people in a certain role. And of course, Matrix can always personalize with custom programming, other personalization capabilities, even for professional editions.
So we've done some personalization with custom programming, and I'll give you an example. For one client, we created a kind of a My page where after logging in, the user then can see, because we're pulling data from different sources, the user can see the committees that he or she is on, can see their membership paid through date, can see the community discussions that they're part of, and their recent purchases. So that's an example of some custom programming where if Dave looked at the page or Chai looked at the page, that's going to be different based on the data that got pulled for me, right?
Yeah.
There's also some additional coding related to like being able to see or not see navigation based on your logged in status.
That's right.
That I know we've done for some clients. So
That's
like
right.
if you're after logging in, if you're a board member, then you can see the navigation for the board portal. But if you're not logged in or you're not part of that user group, then you cannot see the navigation for board portal.
Yeah, yep. And let me show you what you can do, what editors can do within. So first, I'm going to bring you to the users table here of our fictitious site to point out that I have created already two roles. I've got a role called premium member, and I've got a role and a user who's a premium member, and a role called standard member, right? Just to distinguish the fact that I've got two roles, which means we really have three scenarios. If a person visits the page, they're either anonymous, they're a standard member, or they're a premium member. So where have I implemented this? Let's go back out to pages, and I will show you in a page in the store on their products page. So here's the store, and here's their products page. I'm going to go into edit on this one. And I've added two content blocks. And I'm going to show you how this works on the front end as well. Here's their headline, header of the content. But I've added a content block here, this red one, and then down here, this blue one. Okay? And here's the idea. I'm going to show you on the front end. If I go to the store products page, notice I'm receiving this, right? I went to shop the store, and I'm getting this message that says Quantum members receive discounted prices for all products. If you are a Quantum member, log in, right? It's a call to action to say log in so I can get the member pricing. But gosh, I hope if I've already logged in, people don't see that, right? I wouldn't want them to see that. And if I scroll down, I can see the products, and I can see my filters, and below the filters, there's white space. So I'm going to log in here. And I'm going to log in as, I've already logged in as a standard member. And when I log in, Sitefinity returns me to the page, and now that message is gone, right? Because it was only there for anonymous members. But if I scroll down, I've got a new message down here, and it says, did you know that premium members get even more of a discount, right? So premium members, I guess, are fantastic. So let me log out here and log back in, or I guess I've got to go back to my store. I get the message now because I'm not logged in, and I will log in as a premium member. And now as a premium member, I shouldn't get any message, right? I'm not getting this one because I'm logged in, and I'm not getting this one because I'm not a standard member. So if we go back and look and see how that's built.
And Dave, this is available in all versions.
All versions.
So if this is something that you want to do on your pages, this is something that you can do now by basically creating widgets and assigning them to roles.
Assigning, exactly, the
right?
permissions
Which is
on the
basically
widget.
the access levels, Chai.
Yes.
Yeah. And so if I go here, you can see, I'm going to just show you with one. This More button shows me the permissions. And I can say for this specific content block, who can view it? Only anonymous can view it. What does that mean? It means if I've logged in on any role, I can't view this because I'm no longer anonymous. And the one down here, what I put on this one, Same thing, if I go to more, I can see permissions, and here I've said, who can view this widget? A standard member can view it. And it's encouragement for me to become a premium member. If I'm a premium member, I can't see this widget. If I'm anonymous, I cannot see this widget. So it's a way of personalizing content purely based on roles. And there's an example of that.
So the trick, though, or the key to the personalization in standard and professional is you have to be logged in.
Right.
So we've had lots of discussions here, and Chai helped me out, about how do we do things like personalize the featured publication, for example, on the homepage. So say you've got 3 categories of members. You've got regular, you've got government, and you've got students. And you might say, if you're a regular member, I want this publication to be featured, but if you're a student, I want this featured, and if you're government, I want this featured. With the standard and professional, you have to log in order to get the personalizations. And then what you do in the back end of Sitefinity is you basically have 3 versions of that content block,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then you assign each one anonymous, student, and government. But you have to be logged in. So someone who hasn't logged in only ever sees the anonymous version.
That's right.
And so they might log in later on to access protected content. And then if they wander back to the homepage, they'll see the personalized content. So we've been able to do that with custom programming, right? Where we'll do it based on, like, once you log in, you set a cookie. And then if you set a cookie, then we can display certain things. But that's not native functionality in Sitefinity in the professional and standard editions, although clearly that's a nice feature, right? So this is why we want to talk to you about some new features in the marketing edition coming out in 12 that are pretty exciting, that are based on cookies and a login.
I've got a quick question which ties in perfectly with the professional and standard edition.
Yeah.
Can permission ability be connected to single sign-on through whatever your AMS might be for
Absolutely.
members versus non-members?
Absolutely, and that's actually, Chai, correct me if I'm wrong, this is how we do it all the time anyway, right? So almost all of our clients, unless it's a Sitefinity instance that stands on its own, almost all of our Sitefinity implementations connect to some type of a membership database.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
For example, let me give an example of we have integrated with a Matrix Max.
Matrix Max, yep.
On a Matrix Max have a multiple roles. And we might not want to translate every role from the Max or from any AMS as it is. For example, you might say that, hey, in the AMS have a audience of ABC. This audience of ABC will become a member or premium member. What will happening after you log in, we will map that ABC roles in MS to match up with the Sitefinity premium member. And that when you log in, you become a premium member in Sitefinity, but you still maintain the same roles in your
Gotcha,
MS.
okay. So to go back to the question, depending on what your AMS is, whether it's Matrix Max or IMSNet Forum, Nimble, whatever it is, we will almost always map those permission groups to Sitefinity permission groups, right? And then what Chai is saying is you can actually have, like, we have one client, for example, that has 18 member types, and it's based on the level that you pay, but they're all really the same member type. So what we do is we map those 18 to just member in the Sitefinity so that you don't have to have 18 versions of the widget as an example.
Yes.
So with the marketing edition, which is a different version altogether, they have personalization, a personalization module really built in for that specific thing. And I know that we are getting close to the end of the hour, so I'm going to try to make this.
Oh, shoot. Guys, if we can hang on for 10 minutes, because this is so exciting, so I am so sorry.
This and this really is the good part.
Dave,
but
you
it is
spent too much
also
time on security, but keep going.
the part. With the module, you can personalize content based on the context of the user. And that means where are they coming from, their IP address, their location. You can personalize content on how they got there, if there's query strings that brought them into a site or referring URL, or even what time of day. So that's the context of your user. You can personalize it based on behaviors. How long did they stay on the site? What page did the visitor land on? And did they open a specific page? These are behaviors that your visitors exhibit. Or you can do it based on demographic data. And the roles, like we talked about, is one example of demographic data. But you could also do personalization based on profile fields. So every user has a user record. You could have profile fields. And to the earlier question, those profile fields also could be populated from the AMS.
So, and here's typically what we do. When you log in, we grab data from the membership database and we populate the users table. So if one of the fields that you want is state, for example, because for whatever reason you want that information, maybe for personalization or for anything, we can grab that data and save it to the user table. Typically, we will put in first name, last name, email, and then permissions, right?
Yes.
Okay, those are, I think, the minimum things, and then occasionally we'll add more fields.
Yeah. So let me show you how this works in the Marketing Edition. The first place I'm going to go to is Marketing Personalization, and this is where we have to create our user segments. A user segment is essentially the group. So I'm going to have, let's say, I've created two groups here. One is a photo enthusiast group, and the other is animal lovers, okay? If I were to create a user segment, I'm going to give it a name and a description, and then I'm going to build a set of characteristics, and those characteristics define this user segment. And this button here lets me add characteristics, and my choices are all the things that I was just talking about. Is it based on role? Is it based on time of day? And so on.
So, but hang on, let's go there because I just want to make sure that people understand. If you click on characteristics, take a look at what's now available to you. You can have IP address, you can have landing URL. So landing URL is helpful to you if you're doing a campaign. Say you're doing Google AdWords and you're sending them to a specific page. Now you want to change what people are seeing.
Yes.
You might have different profile fields. You might say, for people from these 5 states, we got something going on Capitol Hill. We got to make sure that they see something different. You could also say things like, if any of them ever visit any pages or a specific page related to the annual convention, for example, then I want something else to happen. So there's so many ways that you can use this, right? Yeah. And take a look at the, let's see, the query parameter. And that's based on, like, for example, UTM codes in Google Analytics. If they came in from the newsletter or they're coming in from Facebook, for example, again, there's certain things that you can do.
Yeah. And let me show you an example. So I'm not going to create a new one here. We're going to look at the one I've already created for photo enthusiasts. So here I've given it 2 characteristics. One, if someone visited this page, well, I can tell you this page is a page on the website that is the Quantum Photo Contest page. So I'm thinking if they visited this page, they're a photo enthusiast. It's a news article. The other is if they have this UTM campaign of photography on any page they visit on the site, this query string. So where this comes in is if you've got... This
is going to be an and or an or?
In this case, it's an or, but I can and things as well. So I can, if I add a new characteristic down here, notice it's going to be anded, but if I add one here, it's going to be another or. So the UTM campaign, probably people on the call have had marketing campaigns where you've sent out emails, and the email has a link in it, and the link has the various Google UTM codes attached to it, so that when they go back to your website, Google is capturing the conversion, right, based on those UTM codes. You can use the same thing or your own query parameters here for anything in an email you send out. And then if they go back, you send out an email, you have UTM campaign is photography, they click that link, doesn't matter where they land, they're going to be in that group. So these are a couple of common things, and they work without the user being logged in. So let's see how. So over on our front end, we've got a news section under the company. Under inside Quantum. And the news has this photo contest, right? Now I didn't click on it.
And you haven't logged in.
And I haven't logged in, exactly. But if I'm going to go, and without clicking on the photo contest, actually, I'm going to click on this news item, this other one, and show you. It's on this article page where we've gotten some personalization. And specifically, it's in this section over here. So upcoming events, and it's showing me whatever is some upcoming events here, above the tags and so on. This is another technique that Matrix often encourages, which is don't leave your users, your visitors on a cul-de-sac. Always give them something else to click on. So I'm looking at my news story, and I can click on some upcoming events. But if I go back and remember, clicking on this quantum photo contest was one of the things that puts me in a group. If I click here, I'm seeing the upcoming events on that click, but now it's also logged me in that group. So if I go back and I click on any other news, including the two I've already clicked on, notice over here it's changed. Now it's saying photography event, and it's showing the events that are specific to my group. Now the page, the content here is customized, and I'm going to show you how in the back end, that second step. We've defined our group, fine, photo enthusiast, but on the pages, this is where I can place content blocks or any widget and then personalize a version of those widgets for any of the group. Now, when I'm looking at the list, notice my news article has this new column here, says personalized, telling me I've got a personalized version on this page, so it's also easy to get to. And if I edit it, notice on the right, I have these two content blocks that have this orange header and this little group here. I'm going to show you what happens. If I dragged on a content block and I wanted to make this a personalized version for a group, I can hit more and look, add personalized version. You might have seen this when I was looking at the permissions a minute ago. The personalized version says, well, I know what your market segments are. Pick which one you want to personalize the content for. And let's say I wanted to do something for the photo enthusiast. And when I say add, I'm just in the same old editor, but I'm going to say welcome photo.
And remember, he defined the photo enthusiast as someone who came in with a specific UTM, right? Basically,
Yep.
you came in from any of the emails,
Right.
or clicked on something, or visited the photo contest page.
That's right.
So these are folks whose other behavior is now going to cause the website to show different content.
Exactly right. And once I've done that, I can now use this drop down to say, show me where it's personalized for not specified. And let's say there's nothing there, right? I don't have to have content for people who aren't in a segment. Or I can look and see, show me what it looks like for a photo enthusiast. And if I went back here to more and I added another personalized version, I could add it for any segment I've created.
And Dave, there's a whole lot of 12 functionality in personalization. So personalization was already available in the marketing edition, but there's a whole lot of this new functionality that makes it much easier in 12. Chai,
Yes,
right?
because it's almost like require a programmatically to create some of the segments. It's not really not nice user interface as 12 have.
So much more friendly to
Yes.
the client with 12.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I demonstrated with the events is right here, actually. There's a content block here with two versions. The version that is everyone sees is upcoming event, and if I go to say how is a photo enthusiast version, it's photography event. This is just a content block. But down here, there's events, and the events also have personalized versions. So if I edit this, I'm editing what everyone sees.
So now you can say, just give me events where category equals
Yep.
photography.
Exactly. So what everyone sees is just upcoming events for any time. And if I go to say, what does my photo enthusiast see? Right off the bat, it's showing me the difference. But if I edit here, they are seeing a narrower set of events by categories where the category is photography.
So Dave, we got to wrap up, but basically what we wanted to do was really show you how in the marketing edition, personalization has now become much more accessible.
Yeah.
It's something that a non-programmer can do. And just real quick, if you are interested in marketing edition, please let us know. We're happy to demo this for you, happy to talk to you about, the changes in the licensing. But I know that we are super excited about this. And 12 came out, Chai came running into my office and said, I got to show you this new personalization. So, and Jaime, what it does is we can certainly set you up with like the building blocks for personalization, and then you can keep it going. So Brian, do we have any questions?
I think we're current
We're
on
current?
questions, and
So if there are any questions, Dave, if you don't mind just going over to our website, we've got a couple of other events coming up. Our next webinar, just to make sure everybody knows, we are doing something called, just go to www.matrix Group. Our next webinar is coming up in November, and this is going to be kind of Tech Talk on tech tools. It's going to be, I think, this same group actually. That's actually, just scroll down a little bit. There you go, Tech Talk on Tech Tools. We're going to be talking about some of our tech tools, Password Manager, Slack, et cetera, and sharing with you some of our ideas for, how we use them and how you can use them in your enterprise. So we hope that you are as excited as we are about Sitefinity 12. If you are on managed services, you will be getting Sitefinity 12 probably in the next 6 months, because what we do is we might get you to 11 if you're not already on 11, or get you to 12 depending on your version. So for those of you that are not on managed services, please talk to us about getting you on the latest version. So lots of things that we covered here, just some exciting new features in 12, the move to MVC, which we will no doubt be talking to clients about, and then one last thing, with every upgrade we offer clients kind of an overview session, right? If you're on managed services and we give you an overview, please take advantage of that. Please schedule it. It is part of the fee. We don't charge you extra. And that way, what we can do is really show you some of the new features available in the version that we just upgraded you to. So we are out of time. Dave, Jaime, and Chai, thank you so much for going over Sitefinity 12 with us. Please be in touch. We will take lots and lots of questions. And then Brian, you and I are going to work on getting the slides and the webinar to attendees, I guess in the next couple days.
sounds great.
All right, so everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.